So I have to tell you about my son. One of them is doing summer sales this summer. He is going door to door selling fiber internet in another state. And if you've ever done door to door sales, you might know how it can be one of the most psychological demanding things a person can do, because why? Every single door is a fresh opportunity to get rejected. Some people don't answer their door. Some open the door and shut it even before you start to talk or finish your first sentence. Some people are really rude about it. Some people are just not interested. They have no soliciting signs. I mean, he had to get a actual solicitor's license to go door to door. And he was very excited to go and do this job because the recruiters told him about all the money that he was going to make. And I'm not going to say that I didn't believe in him, because I do. I just can only imagine, even though I've never done it, how difficult it is, because I do not like door-to-door solicitors at my house. And yet, that's actually how I got my own fiber internet, was a door-to-door salesman that said to my son, hey, I'm selling internet that's fiber and it's faster than what you have now. And so he said, Mom, hey, come over here. Anyway, so we have fiber internet because of a door-to-door solicitor. So he was very excited to do this job before he went. And, I don't like to pry too much or sway him. And I just want to remain a neutral person when it comes to this job. I am definitely his cheerleader and I believe in his success. And I just told him, this is where you get to prove that you can be successful at whatever you decide to do. And I don't want to get caught up in how many sales he's done, how much money he's making or not making, and compare him to other salesmen. And so I've tried to remain pretty neutral. And what I do is I message him several times throughout the week, 1 to 10, how you been? And I just want to give him a chance to respond. And some days he calls me, he's like, oh yeah, I got this many sales. And we have a good conversation and I can tell that he's pumped up, he's energetic. Other days when the number's a little bit lower, where door after door after door, he didn't go anywhere and he didn't make sales and he just seems really bummed. And he's actually said, I love being out here. We have a lot of fun, but the job is pure hell. And I know that there are days and moments where he feels defeated and is comparing himself to other people. Now, I believe that this is tricky. And what I honestly know as his mother and as a life coach, that the days that he didn't do as well, he did not get worse at his job. The pitch didn't change. Maybe his neuroception changed. Maybe, I told him, smile, treat everybody like they are your friend. And maybe this helps. But I believe with practice, you can get better and you can develop that. But on those days, his skills didn't disappear. On those days that he did worse, it wasn't really because of him. But what I have learned just recently in the brain is that very more than likely something shifted in his brain. And because I am a science geek, I just learned about this through a neuroscience course that I'm taking and learning about the brain. And it is fascinating to me. But I see this exact pattern in some of my other clients. I see this in myself. I see nurses who give everything for years and years and years and now can't find a reason to care. I see people who have been very ecstatic and have worked so many years to do their job, and now they dread Monday mornings and get anxiety Sunday nights. And I see high achievers who used to be unstoppable, and now they can't seem to get started on anything and they dread just moving. Now, this is not a weakness, and burnout is not a character trait that you have developed. There is an actual, real, measurable neuroscience behind what happens when effort repeatedly meets disappointment. And it just proves true to me over and over and over again that all of your behavior is rooted in your brain and your nervous system. And today we are talking about a tiny, tiny little structure in your brain called the habenula. And I am so excited about this. Some people get excited about Netflix series. I get excited about brain and nervous system pathophysiology. And I just had to do a podcast on this that I just recently learned about. So we're going to talk about the habenula today and what is happening in your brain when this tiny little structure is excited. And I hope it changes the way that you see yourself and others. So welcome to Burnout Solutions. Welcome to Burnout Solutions. My name is Mona Tippett. I am a registered nurse, a life coach, an emotional resiliency expert, and a mom. I love to help healthcare workers and caretakers and just busy, capable people understand their brain and nervous system so stress, overwhelm, and frustration do not run their life. Here on this podcast, we break down burnout, emotional overload, and survival patterns in simple human language. I love to give you practical ways to feel safer, calmer, and more present in your everyday life. You do not need fixing. What you need is support and a nervous system that knows that it's safe. Thanks for being here. I am so excited for you to be here. Yes, I hope you listened to that really long intro. It was like 6 minutes long. Sorry about that. But what I love to do as an emotional resiliency educator is help people understand how science can be used to make sense of your behavior and your emotions and what you are feeling. Because I believe that when you understand what's happening in your body and your brain, you can stop blaming yourself for your reactions, for the way that you are in comparison to how you used to be when you think, why the heck did I just do that? And I'm trying to take all of that pathophysiology that is going on in your body and brain that contributes and what is behind your behavior so that you can start solving the actual problems, so you can start being compassionate with yourself and other people and helping you just tweak things a little bit so that you can live your life more intentionally and authentically. And today we're going really deep, like deep inside your brain. We're talking about the habenula, specifically the lateral habenula. And I know you've probably never heard of this. I don't ever remember about learning about this in my pathophysiology class or my anatomy class. And many of you probably haven't learned about this. And if you have, congrats. That's so awesome. Do you know what it does? Or maybe you just learned enough to pass the test. But I hope by the end of this episode, you will understand yourself a little bit better. So let's just get into it. So first thing is first, what even is the habenula? This is a tiny, tiny structure. It's about the size of a sesame seed, tucked deep in the middle of your brain, right near the thalamus. It has been around, evolutionarily speaking, for a very, very long time, which tells us that it's doing something important. And yet, for most of the history of neuroscience, it was largely overlooked. Scientists knew it was there. They just weren't sure what it was doing. And what I love about all of the science that are coming out, and I learned this at a brain conference that I went to about 3 years ago, that we have learned more about the brain in the last 20 years than we knew for the 200 years before that. We are making massive, massive leaps in understanding the brain, how it works, what areas of the brain light up and what they do. And I find it fascinating. So over the last 15 to 20 years, specifically, the lateral habenula, or the LHB, as researchers call it, they have found one of the most actively studied brain structures when it comes to depression, motivation, and stress research. Papers are coming out of Princeton, of Harvard, of PubMed, all of these serious science universities and research centers are starting to study this. And what they found is both fascinating and I think a little bit heartbreaking, because what the habenula's job is, its primary function, is to track when things don't go as expected. It is literally your brain's disappointment center. When something good happens to you that you weren't expecting, what happens? Your dopamine system lights up. That's why surprise is so fun for us, because we weren't expecting it. It's fun. It's yay, this is happening. And we get a huge rush of dopamine. And we know dopamine and we love dopamine and we are addicted to dopamine and seek it often. But on the other side, when something bad happens, or even when something good was expected and didn't come through, the habenula fires. And when the habenula fires, it sends an inhibitory signal to your dopamine neurons, your serotonin system, the yay system in your brain. And it essentially tells the feel good, let's try it again, let's keep going, it's okay, parts of your brain to calm down and not fire. Think about it like this. If your dopamine system is the gas pedal, the thing that makes you feel motivated, rewarded, and ready to go, the habenula is the brake, a very aggressive brake. And in a healthy, regulated nervous system, those two things balance each other out beautifully. When you try something, it doesn't work, the habenula fires and you pause, you can recalibrate, you can shift, you can use your logical brain to try something different and problem solve. You get back up and try again with the new information. That's the healthy version. That is the habenula and the dopamine system doing its job, working, in tandem with each other. But here's where it gets really relevant to burnout. When you are under chronic, ongoing, unrelenting stress, which, is pretty much the definition of burnout, something starts to go wrong with the system. This can happen in medical school, in nursing school, in summer sales jobs. This can happen with caring for somebody with a chronic illness. There's so many life situations that can be this type of situation of chronic, ongoing, unrelenting stress. When that happens, the habenula in your brain gets sensitized. So it's like the brake starts sticking. Instead of firing occasionally in response to disappointment and then resetting, it starts running all the time. Researchers call this hyperactivity of the lateral habenula. And the result is that your dopamine and your serotonin systems are being suppressed, not just in response to setbacks, but consistently and persistently. It is like a low, continuous baseline of your habenula is working. And when that happens, you get the state that's described as a constant signal of nothing good is coming. Okay, so those Debbie Downers out there, those pessimistic Pollys, all of those Eeyores, these people have a hyperactive habenula. They believe nothing good is coming. They believe, everything is out to get you and it is the worst and life is ugly and bad. And that literally is what an overactive habenula is broadcasting to your motivational system day after day. And you feel it that it is flat, joyless, why bother exhaustion, right? It fits in perfectly with a dorsal vagal shutdown of I don't care and I don't care that I don't care. And it can just be firing and not go away, even when things in your life are objectively fine. This is measurable neurochemistry, and that's why I love it. And here's what I want you to hear. That feeling is not who you are. It is what happens when this specific brain structure has been overstimulated for too long by too much uncontrolled stress, by too many things that your brain is categorizing as bad, stressful. And it literally is your biology. And it is often displayed in your behavior of, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to care. I'm going to give up. And I want to go back to my son for just a second, because this perfectly illustrates the healthy short-term version of what we're talking about. On the hard days, the days where door after door got slammed or didn't open, or he got a lot of no's, his habenula was doing exactly what it was designed to do. It registered the pattern of effort not meeting the reward. It quieted his drive a little bit. It told him, why keep trying? The results are not coming from your effort that you're putting in, so stop putting forth the effort. It actually made him pause and wonder, do I need to keep doing this? Should I just go home? Should I just throw in the towel? It can also help you wonder if something needs to change. Do I need more training? Do I need help? Do I need to shadow somebody? Do I need to change my script? Whatever. And if that's the way your habenula is working, that's good. And that's supposed to happen. That means your system is working. But the problem for those who are burned out, it isn't a single hard day. It's when those hard days stretch into months and those months stretch into years. And when the environment itself, like your job, the system you're working for, the culture, where effort chronically doesn't meet reward, where you do everything right and you still have a terrible patient outcome, where you do everything right and you advocate and you work hard and you bend over backwards and nothing changes, where you give and you give and you give, and the organization you're working for takes and takes and takes, your brain feels like there's a mismatch and the habenula just doesn't really get a reset. It just keeps firing at a lower level, and maybe it gets stronger and starts to reshape how your entire brain processes possibility, how it processes your effort to reward calculation, right? And this is just super fascinating to me. So when my clients tell me that they used to love their work and now they feel nothing, when they don't know who they are anymore because they can't seem to care about anything, when they used to be so excited and passionate about something and now they're not, and they don't care anymore, and they feel like regardless of what they do, it's not moving the needle. And this is a person whose brain has adapted to an environment that kept sending the message that effort doesn't pay off. Now, the great news is this is a solvable problem, but you have to know that you're solving the right thing. So if you have a hyperactive habenula, what symptoms might you be experiencing? And what does it look like? What does it feel like? Because I think some of you might hear this list and feel like I'm describing you. The first is the loss of motivation for things you used to love. Not just work things, but this can also be personal things. This can be hobbies, relationships, things that used to light you up, and now they don't and they feel flat. This is the dopamine suppression in action. Your reward system has been quieted so consistently that it's struggling to respond even to genuinely good things, even when you have really, really good days, even when there are reasons to smile and be happy and you think, oh, I should be so overjoyed, and you just feel a little bit flat. Which leads me to anhedonia. This is a clinical term for the inability to feel pleasure. Research published found that individual differences in habenula volume were directly linked to symptoms of anhedonia. The smaller the habenula, or the more disrupted its function, the more anhedonia people experienced. It's not that joy disappeared, but the actual pathway in your brain is being blocked. Okay, another one is the why bother voice. I would talk all about a loud inner critic. Well, these people have a why bother voice. It can be persistent. It is low-grade pessimism, and it is the mental habit of assuming that things won't work out before you even try. This is your habenula broadcasting nothing good is coming, everything bad happens to me, why even try? And that signal is so consistent that your brain has started treating it and believing it as truth. Okay, the next, maybe you have decision fatigue or cognitive brain fog. The habenula plays a direct role in behavioral flexibility, which is your brain's ability to shift strategies and to make good decisions under changing conditions. But when the habenula is hyperactive, that flexibility gets impaired and things feel harder to think through. You second guess everything because, remember, your emotional brain is leading and your prefrontal cortex is going more offline. So even simple decisions can feel like too much and you get decision fatigue. It's hard to make decisions that are really easy, which also coincides with the next one, sleep disruption. The habenula has connections to your circadian rhythm and regulation, which makes sense, right? Because when we're stressed, we don't sleep well, which also means the thing that's stealing your motivation is also stealing your recovery. right? That is such a hard loop to be in. The last one is feeling unrewarded even when good things happen. So, are you someone who just received a compliment and it bounces right off of you? You deflect it, you ignore it, you deny it. Maybe you finish a big project and feel nothing, right? You get the recognition that you worked so hard for and you can't enjoy it. If that resonates, that is why the pathway that would allow you to receive the reward is being suppressed by the habenula. So if any of those sound familiar, I want you to know, again, it is not you. It is your wiring. It is your biology doing exactly what biology does under conditions of chronic, uncontrollable stress. So let's finish up with what actually helps. And this is the exciting part. But first, I want to be honest with you that just like things with the brain and nervous system, the more you know, it doesn't change things. You cannot think your way out of a habenula problem. And I say that with love because I know that all of you high achievers listening out there have been trying to rethink your way out of so many problems and think your way out of your stories, out of feeling bad. And you are reading the right books. You're even listening to this podcast. You are saying affirmations. You are trying to convince yourself to feel more motivated, to have more willpower and discipline, to push yourself. And it keeps not working. And sometimes you blame yourself, like, it's not working. I've tried, I've learned, I've listened, and it's not working because although mindset work does matter, that's a great place to start. It works best when the nervous system underneath has been regulated first. And just like the nervous system learns through experience, so does the habenula. You need to work from the body up. And this is what research has proven time and time again. So some things that you can do. Number one are small wins on purpose. Recovery requires small, repeatable moments where you tried something and it does work, right? So we are giving ourselves the experience where effort meets the outcome. This is where the brain gets to experience the equation differently. We're switching up the math. Research describes this as rebuilding action outcome contingencies, which is basically retraining your brain's sense of agency, your brain's sense of what I do does make a difference. And you are having that experience in small, small moments over time. This is why I work with clients on making micro wins before we tackle big goals. It's not about lowering the bar. It is about feeding the brain the specific kind of input it needs to start the rewiring that nothing good is coming signal to small, tiny evidence that's repeated over time. And that is what starts to quiet the habenula. You experience success, and we are giving our brain the dopamine, the immediate gratification, and quieting the habenula to say, see, what I'm doing is working. We're paying attention to that, and we're giving that part more airtime. Number two, no surprise to me, probably no surprise to you if you've listened to this, movement. Exercise directly increases dopamine and serotonin, the very systems that the habenula works against and suppresses. And this doesn't have to be a full gym session. I say this time and time again. I exercise for my mental health, and I was thrilled to see that it helps in this loop. So a 15-minute walk can help. Dancing in your kitchen to a fun song. Anything. Movement is neuroscience, and it's not just self-care. It is one of the most direct biological interventions that they have seen for counteracting what an overactive habenula is doing. Okay. Number three, safe social connection. I've talked about this also a million times. Thanks to the polyvagal theory, we have been taught that being in the ventral vagal state, a state of safety and connection, is the physiological opposite of the threat response. And when you are in a safe, genuine social connection with another human being, your nervous system receives the message that the environment is not dangerous and that it is safe, and we can lower our guard. There's no need for that cortisol and that adrenaline. And know that the habenula is most overactive when stress is uncontrollable and when you're facing it alone. So, co-regulation is the antidote to both of those conditions at the same time, right? So, be around somebody who is well regulated, somebody who helps you feel safe. You can call them, you can be with them. Not just to talk to your problems, but just to feel a their regulated nervous system, be in the same room together. This is what I love about our biology, is co-regulation has proven to be so effective over and over again. Okay, number 4, addressing the uncontrollable. I talk a lot about this with my burnout clients. We learned about this in the Forward Facing Institute, and research has been clear that the habenula responds most strongly to stressors that feel uncontrollable. So a surprise in a bad way. And part of burnout recovery is doing an honest audit. What in my environment is genuinely uncontrollable? What feels uncontrollable because I have been so depleted that I have lost my sense of agency, that I've lost the sense of my why? Sometimes the answer is a real systemic change needs to happen. You might need to change jobs. You might need to hold and set boundaries. You might need to have some psychological load needs to be reduced in your life. And sometimes, but not always, but sometimes the sense of powerlessness is partly a symptom of the habenula getting stuck, and your perception is not an accurate read of reality. And this is where coaching becomes so powerful, helping you see clearly what you actually have an influence over and rebuilding the belief of what actions you can do that do matter, regardless of the people around you, regardless of your job, regardless of your spouse and your children and all of that. And that's what I love about coaching my clients, is helping them see what you can change. Okay, number 5 goes along with that, is reframing your perception, but after regulation. Regulation has to happen first. And then we can use some cognitive reframing, looking at your setbacks as information rather than a failure, practicing and believing in self-compassion. What does it look like in your life? How can we change the story that you tell yourself about the hard days? Research supports it, and it's a core part of what we do in my burnout recovery coaching. But that all happens after your nervous system has had enough safety to receive it. You can't think your way calm when your body is in threat mode. You can't argue with a habenula while it's actively doing its thing. You need to regulate first, and then we reflect. We widen that space in between stimulus and response, and that's where we have our power. So if you tried to reframe your way out of burnout and stress before and it hasn't worked, it's not because you're doing it wrong, but most likely it's because your foundation wasn't ready yet and your nervous system still believes it needs to protect itself. Okay, last one is sleep. Prioritizing sleep for neurological repair is essential. The habenula is connected, like I said, to your circadian system. And when it's hyperactive, it can disrupt sleep. So when you lose sleep, it also becomes more reactive. It's a loop that feeds itself. Breaking that loop by protecting your sleep, not as a luxury, but as a non-negotiable, is one of the most important things you can do for yourself and the system. And that involves learning how to regulate your nervous system so you can sleep well. I've said this so many times on this podcast, but I did not sleep well for years and years and years and years and years. And now I can, because I have trained my nervous system to be out of fight or flight by giving it that experience. And this is something I work on every day in tiny little moments over and over again. And it works. Okay, so let's just come to a close, and I want to give you a recap of what to take away from today's episode. That why bother, nothing sounds good anymore, I don't care anymore, and nothing I do can make a difference feeling is not who you are. It is what happens when your brain's disappointment center has been working overtime for too long in an environment that kept sending the message that your effort doesn't make a difference. It's not a character flaw. It's not ingratitude. It's not a weakness, but it's your habenula doing exactly what a hyperactive habenula does, shutting down the very systems that would help move you forward and make a difference. And just like my son, who gets back out there the next morning and knocks on all those doors because he's trying to build that resiliency and is still in the early chapters of his brain development and understanding all of this stuff, so can you. And this is learned not through willpower, but through understanding what's actually happening in your biology and working with your biology instead of against it. That is what I get to help people do. That is why I'm here. So if this episode spoke to something you've been feeling, if you've heard yourself in any of these symptoms, if you're ready to stop white knuckling it and actually address what's going on underneath, I would love to connect with you. I offer a burnout call, and this is a conversation that you have with me. This is not a sales pitch. We just talk about where you are and help you identify some of your patterns that you've been noticing and how we can tweak them and whether working together might be the right move. The link is in the show notes. So thank you for being here. Thank you for caring enough about your own nervous system and your brain to spend time learning about the habenula today. Thank you for being with me, the science geek who gets super excited about stuff like this. And I will see you next time. Every week, you're learning something new here on this podcast, and that is a powerful first step. But guess what? Information alone doesn't create transformation. True change happens when you start to think differently and shift the nervous system patterns that drive your behavior. As a coach and an emotional resiliency expert, that is the work I do. I love to walk alongside you, whether it's one-on-one, in a small group that you choose, or with your workplace team. I can help you retrain your brain and nervous system so that stress no longer runs the show. You'll find ways to connect with me in the show notes. Let's do this work together.